Alabama Wrestling Forums. I'm Jackson Bass, here with 7A heavyweight state champ Dawson Ray. How you doing today, Dawson?
Doing great, man.
Doing great. So let me start out by asking you, what got you into wrestling?
Dude, I just moved to Vestavia, and it was my 7th grade year. No, it was the summer before my 7th grade year when I moved to Vestavia. And my older brother was best friends with Sam Willoughby, another one of our state champs, graduated class of 2020. He was talking to me about wrestling, and I just remember growing up, I would wrestle around with my siblings and all that, and he was like, yeah, because this has a wrestling team. I was like, oh, that sounds really cool. And then, I showed up thinking it was just going to be a bunch of wrestling around, nothing much. And then it was kind of a rude awakening. And my 7th grade year, I couldn't do it. I couldn't participate because of the transfer rule. And so I hated it. I almost quit after my 7th grade year. My dad actually pulled me a month early from wrestling my 7th grade year because I hated it so much. The sport's too hard not to compete and just practice, you know what I'm saying? So my 8th grade year, I was going to choose between indoor track, which I would have been horrible at, or wrestling. And my dad was like, just try wrestling, and if you don't like it, after your first match, we'll pull you from it. I was like, okay, and then I wrestled my first match, I won, and I fell in love with the sport.
So if you were to do indoor track, would you have done shot put?
Yeah, but I was horrible at shot put because I ended up doing outdoor track, and I wasn't very good, so.
That's pretty cool. So obviously, you didn't really get to start as much until probably your junior year. You had Douglas Thompson was ahead of you, and even when you were in middle school, you had Jacob Edwards, James Edwards, a lot of those bigger guys who graduated in, I think it was 2017.
Yeah.
How did having those guys in the room kind of give you a good perspective on what it takes to be a state champ?
They were actually, Douglas was the only one that I was actually in the room with. Now, my 8th grade year, that was when the Edwards were there, and you had Barrett Strickland, and you had another guy, I can't remember, Connor. You had Connor. So we had a big heavyweight group my 8th grade year. But there was no one at Pizitz that was close enough to my size to wrestle because I was 270 pounds in 8th grade. And I hurt Everett Thompson, his little brother. And I tore his meniscus. And so Coach Pruitt, our middle school coach at the time, was just like, Dawson, we're going to send you up to the high school every Mondays and Tuesdays. And I was like, okay. And so I came up here and wrestling around with Jacob. I wrestled around with Jacob a lot. And me being 14 years old, it was hard. It wasn't a lot of fun, but they definitely made me tougher. They definitely gave me a feel for what varsity wrestling was like. So that really helped going into my freshman year.
So we're going to fast forward a little bit. Obviously, you had a very successful junior year. You placed 4th at state. And then into your senior year, you had a very interesting season, to say the least. Well, first, you started out, you had this stellar start, and then you ended up hitting a wall, and you wrestling Drew Lawson, you lose in triple overtime. And then another, right after that, kind of lost to Rayshad Burks of Spade Park. How did those losses kind of fuel you going into the state tournament this year?
So I remember Coach Adams telling me, last year I had no confidence in myself. But I didn't have any confidence that I could beat anyone because that was my first year starting. And every time I wrestled someone good, I would wet the bed, per se. That's the best way to put it.
Yeah, it is.
But, Coach Adams was like, when are you going to learn that you're bigger than everybody else? And I was just like, I don't know, Coach. These guys are good. And he's like, you're good. So going into senior year, I was like, I'm going to be undefeated state champ. No one's going to touch me. Okay? And that was I was cocky. It's not confidence. I was cocky. I was just being cocky. Because I had a successful football season personally. So I was going into the wrestling thing, I'm just going to pick up where I left off. And, I started out 8-0. I didn't really wrestle anyone good in those first 8 matches. And, so I wrestled those first 8 matches, and then I'm wrestling Drew, and I was like, this could be the state finals match. I was I was getting nervous for my match, but I was like, I'm going to beat this kid. This kid doesn't even look like he can compete with me. And I went into the match thinking I already had won, I didn't. And I wrestled a horrible match. I didn't do anything, didn't try anything, just kept doing the same thing that didn't work. And we get to the last overtime, and they got me for another stall call, and that's a point. You won the match. So, it was a good stall call. I deserved to lose that match. Okay, and then after that match, I lost every bit of confidence I had. I was like, I'm not undefeated anymore. Like, what am I gonna do? And we keep wrestling. I was supposed to wrestle the Auburn kid, or Cameron Reese. I forgot his name. I was supposed to wrestle Cameron Reese December 21st, and that our match got canceled like a week before. And my coach was like, "I think that's good. We only want to wrestle him once." And so anyway, fast forward to Rayshad Burt's. Yeah, I knew who I was wrestling. When I realized I wasn't wrestling Moses? Andrew. When I realized I wasn't wrestling Andrew, because Andrew's kind of athletic. He tries. Because he lateraled me that one time. I wasn't expecting that. But, so I was actually, I thought, not trying to sound cocky here, we were obviously a much more talented team than Spain Park was this year. So like once I realized we had the match won, I was like talking a bunch of like crap, like a bunch of immature stuff I shouldn't have been doing. I was yelling, hooting, hollering, not taking Rayshad serious. And so I went in that match thinking I'm just gonna bear hug him and I'm gonna pin him in like 20 seconds. And we went in there, and he was pretty strong. He could kind of hold his own, and I was like, all right. And once I got it locked up, I was like, all right, I'm just gonna finish this real quick. And then when he threw me, the only thing I could hear was the gym. I was just like, oh my gosh, I'm about to go deaf. Like I was freaking out, like I'm about to get pinned by a sophomore. And I tried to fight it, but you can't fight off a headlock when it's 30 seconds into the match. And he pinned me, and I just remember sitting there thinking like, what happened? Like what happened? And I get up, and I realized my knee's hurting really bad. And I wrestled the next match, which I shouldn't have done. I won that match. And then I woke up the next morning, and I couldn't walk. I had to go to the ER. Like I could not walk. And we get an MRI done, and they said I had torn my PCL, which is like the opposite of your ACL. It's not as big of a deal as your ACL, but it's still a pretty big deal. Like Coach Adams told me, he was like, if you were not a senior this year, like I would pull you out the rest of the season. But there was still there was no guarantee that I was going to wrestle at state. So like I didn't start practicing for state until about 2 weeks before it. And Coach Adams was like, we got to get you in shape. So I didn't even do a whole lot of wrestling. I just did a lot of running every day. So many sprints. I was sick of sprints. Like I couldn't. Like if we had to have another practice, I think I would have quit. I had to run so many sprints. And but losing the Rayshad was a huge reality check. And my coach was like, "All right, you're good. He hit a good move on you, and now you know like you're beatable. Like you're beatable. Like you can't walk out there thinking I'm gonna pin everybody. You know." Because when I lost to Drew, I was like, well, he's pretty good. Like, I can take that loss. But, I still lost my confidence, but wrestling Rayshad was a huge reality.
So, going into your state tournament, I think you were seated, fourth?
Yeah.
You're fourth. And you knew that you were going to have to draw Cameron Reese in the semifinals.
Yeah, so here's the crazy thing about that. As soon as I placed fourth last year, because Cameron Reese had gotten hurt before the tournament. I was thinking, like, I would think about it, like, maybe not every day, but like every other day I would think, like, because I wanted to win a state title. That's been one of my goals since I was an 8th grader. I was thinking, like, I'm going to have to, like, go through him to win a state title. And eventually, like, I was, like, thinking, I need to be a 2 seed. Like, I want to wrestle him in the finals, so there's no pressure because I've already made it. Okay, and losing the race shot put me in the 4 seed. And then my coach was like, you're going to have to wrestle Cameron Reese in the semifinals. And I was just like, okay, all right. And I would say I had a tough draw in the tournament. I had to wrestle sophomore first, but then I had to wrestle Tate Campbell for Sparkman. And like he's not bad. He's got a good record on him. And then I had to wrestle Cameron Reese, of course, and I don't think anyone gave me a chance. No one in this ring gave me a chance except Coach Adams. And my dad. So like, yeah, I couldn't. I was just like, oh my gosh. There was a lot of pressure. I was very stressed. Very stressed.
So what went on in that match?
And then after I beat Tate Campbell, I talked to my dad. I was like, I'm going to have to wrestle this kid. And he was like, okay. And I was like, this kid is really, really good. Like, this kid is very strong, much more athletic than I am. much stronger than I am. Only thing I've got over him is my size. And my dad was like, okay, like, look at where you are now. Like, you overcame a PCL injury that should have put you out for the season, and now you're here. Like, why would you let yourself get intimidated? And that really helped. That helped me a lot. And you know, we had a game plan going in there, and I was just going to use my size against them. Like, I wasn't going to try to do anything athletic against them. So I remember the whole first period, I just grabbed his wrist. Right? I just grabbed his wrist because I'm like he's going to shoot all his bullets in the first period. Because from what I was aware of, the only person he went to the third period with was Drew Lawson, and he beat him 1-0 because Drew Lawson couldn't get up. So I held his wrist. He took like 10 like halfway shots, like trying to fake me out, and I wasn't having any of it. But so we get to the second period, and see, we were planning to go to the last overtime. We were playing for the flip. That was the game plan originally, and it was my choice, and I was like, down. And I actually, this is where he's really good, was on top. And so he threw in legs in on me, and it worked for like a quick second, and then I hip swimmed him, and I thought I was going to get a reversal there, and then I just went for a roll, because I had his arm and his leg, I just found myself with his arm right here and his leg right here. I went for a roll, and he caught it, slowest roll on the planet. That's my athleticism for you. And so he almost got that points. I rolled back over, and then I was like, I'm going for it again. I can't get up. And so I go for it again, and then his arm slips, and then I just slip out. So I don't know none of that, but I got my 1 point, and I was like that's when I was like, maybe I can win this thing. And I could see it in his eyes when I got up. He's gassed. He doesn't have anything left. So I start pressuring in. I'm like pressuring in. And we're about to go out of bounds, and I walked up to bear hug, and then I just did a slight knee tap. When I got my takedown, I was like, I'm going to win this match. And sure enough, he didn't have any energy in the third. They called me for a locking hands as soon as I took him down. I still think it's a bogus call. They called it as soon as I slammed him on the mat. Like, didn't give me a chance to react or anything. And, but I won the match 5-3, and it was great. One of the greatest feelings I've ever had. Because I remember Thompson, Yanni Fines, and I think it was Will Miller came up to me, and they were like, "Man, you really screwed us. Like we were banking on you not winning, because that put us up 20 more points when I won, and that's what gave us the huge lead going into the finals." And so yeah.
So talk about your finals match.
At that point, I was like, I can beat anybody. Because with that game plan I had, I was like, I've come too far to give up. Like, I've come too far just to lose. You know, after everything I've been through, everyone that's ever supported me, like Coach Adams, 4 years, like, I've come too far to give up. And Douglas Thompson was supposed to win it. Now, his junior year, there was some good heavyweights. Now, his senior year, he was supposed to win it. Like, he was number one. Like, I remember him beating you, and I was like, I think Douglas is going to win it. And when he choked and didn't place, I was like, that can't be me. I can't choke. Even if I'm going to play second, I can't choke. So I went in there, and I just kept pressuring in. And we were in some sort of, I don't really remember, but they called a double stall on us, double stall call. And so we go the whole regulation, no takedown, just 1-1, going in overtime. I didn't get anything that overtime. And then we go into the 2 30-second periods, and I get the first choice. I choose down, and then I get up, and I'm about to just get my quick escape because he can't hold me down. We can't hold each other down. But I realized he wasn't letting go. And so I was like, okay. But his hands weren't locked, but his hands were just right here. So I grabbed his wrist, and I held him as tight as I could. Like, I held him there. I'm trying to get a stall call. And as soon as the ref held up his hand, I got the point at 3-1. And then the rest is history.
That's definitely a crazy match. I know many people were very shocked to see you beat that kid after losing to him. So you mentioned Will Miller and Yanni talking up your match because Thompson was in a really close race with you guys up until you said last day. What does it mean to go out with a championship as a team?
It's unbelievable. It's a feeling that can't be described unless you've experienced it. Just all the hard work we put in. Because when we wrestled Thompson in December, and that was, in December, and that was when I lost to Drew Lawson. It was in that same try meet or whatever. It was us, Arab, Thompson, and Bob Jones.
Quad.
Yeah, quad, my bad. Education,
yeah. Vestavia.
So we quad match, and we wrestled Thompson, and I mean, we didn't have like 5 of our guys out there. It wasn't we weren't close to our full lineup. They killed us, and I always remember thinking, I was like, man, those guys are really good this year. Like I want what they have. They cheer for each other. When they lose, they clap for each other. Like they're there for each other. They're such a brotherhood, and I was envious of that. Like I wanted that, and Coach Adams wanted that too. And he said, the next day we had to come to Jesus meeting with Coach Lamy and Coach Adams, and we changed a lot of things. And I think that's what ultimately that day, the day after, is what led us to where we were in February. Because then we wrestled them again, we closed the gap by like 5. I think it was like 5 point difference, I think. And so Coach Adams kept telling us before, like 2 weeks before the state tournament, like we've got them right where we want them. Like we've got them. Like so, and we just kept that in mind. And we just went in there and we just got on a hot streak, and we never stopped. And that feeling was great because I didn't want to be one of the only classes to go through this program and never win a state championship. So, we had a couple of coaches tell us like this was one of the best Vestavia teams they've ever seen. We had 12 top 4 placers. We had all 14 plays, but 12 in the top 4. And it was great, man. We made history. We're like, since the Thompson dynasty started, we're the first team that ever beat them. Because like, no, because like it's hard to make me explain. Because the 2 years we won it, they were on probation, I think. Like they were not.
I think 1 year they were on probation, and then the other, you guys were just ahead of them on that year. I don't know. Well, you mentioned Coach T and how he's been a really good support for you guys. What are his kind of keys to success? As you as a wrestler, seeing what he can tell you, you kind of bought in to his philosophy.
Are you asking
what are his major philosophies as a coach?
Oh, they most definitely outwork everybody. Be the most. He said, I don't care if you're athletic. I don't care if you know any moves. But you're all going to be in the best shape of your life. I'm talking like this was cross country at the time. We ran so much, and like this was by far the hardest year of wrestling for me. And he's like, I'm trying to figure out what I've done wrong the past 3 years, and the only thing I can think of is if we're not in good enough shape. Like we have I remember sophomore year he was thinking, okay, we're wrestling too many matches. And junior year he was like, he lowered our matches, but the practices weren't as hard. Like he didn't want us to be tired out. And he's like, then he found the perfect mix. He's like, all right, we're not gonna have a lot of matches this year. We're gonna be in good shape, so by when we peak, we're gonna kill everybody. That was his whole philosophy. That's his biggest one. He doesn't really talk a lot. He doesn't express himself a lot. That's what I'm trying to say. He's pretty introverted dude. But yeah, most definitely outwork everybody. He's like, he would always tell us, you should work so hard that you're gonna beat someone. He's like, I'm not telling you to go out there and just think you're gonna beat someone just because you're more talented than them. I want you to work so hard that no one's outworked you. So that was his biggest philosophy. He said, I want you to hate wrestling. That's how hard we're gonna work. So.
That's awesome. So I don't know how many of our viewers know that Dawson also plays football and just got a preferred walk-on to UAB. What are some big ties in between being a football player and a wrestler?
Wrestling helped my footwork a lot. I think wrestling made football easier because I love both sports. And the wrestling practices, I would take a 3-hour football practice over one of Coach Adams' 45-minute wrestling practices any day of the week. So, there was one day where he said, all right, it's Friday, y'all are off the next 2 days. I'm going to make sure y'all need those next 2 days off So we live wrestled for an hour. There was 2 groups. We live wrestled for an hour in here. I was in the group that live wrestled for an hour first. And then he was like, all right, y'all got to run 30 stadiums and 15 hills. And I was like, so that was like, you see what I'm saying then? Like,
Yeah.
I would take a football practice any day of the week.
So like 30 stadiums, you talking like snake stadiums?
No, just regular stadiums. Just up and down. Up and
So,
down.
so okay. That's like
But the 15 hills takes forever.
Really?
The hill's huge.
hill's
So,
huge.
yeah.
Well, I'm glad I didn't go to Vestavia. So
You still won state twice. So.
yeah, I didn't have to run 30 hills to win state. That is true.
Yeah, be a headlock to do it.
Hey, don't crush on the headlock, okay? It's my move, and obviously it still works because Rashad pinned you with it.
Yep. I give him credit. Give him credit where credit's due. He earned that win.
So, you know, the big news, I say the big news, the thing that everybody's really wanted to talk about is the trash talk that's been going on between you and Dylan Darren.
Dylan Darren, bro, that's my boy, but he has to understand his plays, bro. I beat him every day of the week.
Well, I interviewed him earlier this month, and he was telling me, he's like, oh, I could beat Dawson any day of the week. Easy as 1, 2,
Oh
3.
my! See, we actually went to one practice together because we were just like, let's just go to one practice and see who can beat each other. And I don't want to be too cocky, but
Wow.
Dylan, know your place, man.
That's awesome. So, obviously, this year you guys had a lot of champs, and you had probably one of the best years I think I've seen Vestavia have in my tenure of wrestling. But I think it may have been extra special for you since, you know, one of your longtime buddies and football buddies, Bryce Littleton, also won state this year.
Oh, man.
What was kind of the emotions you guys felt? You know, you guys both finally won state your senior year.
So we came into this program, and Coach Gadoff, one of the first things he ever told us was there's never been a 220 and a heavyweight for Vestavia to win it in the same year. Because typically, when you have a good 220 and heavyweight, you're gonna have a good team. Like that's a good duo right there. Those are the big boys. Those are the big guys. They hang with each other. They do everything together. All that kind of stuff in the wrestling room. Anyway, so yeah, that was just one of our goals. They were like, we're gonna be the first ever 220 heavyweight to win it in the same year. And Bryce had his own struggles with Kyle Watson, because like he couldn't beat him. Bryce was so much more athletic than everyone else and had no problems wrestling anybody else. When Kyle Watson beat him his junior year that first time in the Scott Burhair finals, it messed with him. And it took Bryce a year and a half. Like the game, he had to get his confidence back. He didn't have the confidence that he had his freshman year or his 8th grade year. Because you know, when he was younger, he was like a youth, but like I don't know. He was just crazy.
He was a phenom.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking for. Phenom. Yeah, he was a phenom.
Yeah.
And so Coach Allen was like, we got to get that confidence back in Bryce. And we got it back. After he lost to Kyle Watson, first match this season, I've never seen someone work harder than he did. I'm talking about, he came first in every sprint we did. He was always like going hard. He was always doing extra. He was always staying after practice, always running, always trying to get everyone to work out. You know, he was one of the best leaders I've ever seen. Like, I mean, we can talk about my state championship all we want to, but I don't think if we did not have Bryce, we would have not won. And I'm not saying just because he won state. His leadership was above everything else. Like, we all followed him. We all just took his lead. So, yeah.
You should definitely tell Bryce to DM me back, and so maybe I can do an interview with him soon.
No, he's not a big interview guy, but I'll give some praise to Bryce since he won't give it to himself and that kind of stuff. But Bryce is one of the best leaders I've ever seen, and I'm excited to go to UAB with him.
So this year was a very weird year in COVID-19 affecting a lot of teams. How did COVID-19 affect your team?
COVID-19, it actually didn't affect our team too bad. I don't think we had anyone get sick. You know, we were pretty strict with each other. You know, we held each other accountable. We were like, yo, don't go to parties. We were like, we're going to hold each other accountable. Don't do anything stupid. Mm-hmm. Like, don't do anything stupid. Put this team in jeopardy. And but other than that, it didn't really affect us. We did have 2 guys we were worried about that weren't going to qualify. And that was our 3rd placer, Harris Mitchell, and then someone else that did. It was one of our smaller guys. I can't remember it. think it was either our 106 or it was Carson. Yeah, we were worried about Carson. Our 126 that made the finals.
Yeah, he makes the finals.
Anyway, that was huge. Anyway, but yeah, because you had to have at least 10 matches to get in, and Harris had been hurt half the season, and Carson wasn't our starter until the end of the season. And having to get those guys matches, we were pretty stressed that they weren't going to get in.
So obviously, Vestavia Hills is very well known for producing just team after team after team of studs. And obviously, it's not because these kids are transferring in from different places. It's because the quality of coaching. But this year, you guys had a good amount of seniors. But you could say that much about any year for Vestavia. What are you looking forward to for the future of Vestavia Hills wrestling?
Man, let me tell you something. That sophomore class this year, I'm comfortable saying they are going to be the best class of wrestlers for any team in Alabama ever. Like, those guys are insane. They've got 10 guys that I think are possible state finalists at some point in time in their career. Now, I may just be biased, but those guys are insane. You got Jack Lane, Andrew Sykes. Those were the big boys. And then you got Luke Dutton. You had Harris Mitchell. Those were just 4 guys. Clay Johnston. And then there was a bunch of other guys that just didn't start. Mitch Taylor, I think, could be in the finals at some point.
Oh, yeah. Ray shot. I can see that'd be a cool match.
Yep. We got Jack McMurray, Lane Wisenhunt. Like, all those guys, they're a great class. They're also huge. There's like 40 of them. They're huge. But they're a great group of kids, and I can't wait to see what they're going to do when they're seniors.
Marine Wrestling Club just got a new head coach in Elijah Oliver. What are you excited about for him being the club coach out here in Vestavia?
Oh, he's a great dude. I've had a chance to talk to him, and he's a great guy, very humble. He knows a lot. He was giving me tips before my state championship match. I didn't do any of them, but I was just like, I appreciate the support. Like, I wish I was athletic enough to do these moves you're showing me, but man, you're really nice. Like, I think he'll be great because everyone loves him. Everyone loves him already. And he actually trained with Topher. He trained with Topher a lot, and he trained with Bryce. I didn't train with him, just because I didn't train with him. Anyway, but Bryce trained with him a lot, and Topher trained with him a lot, and you can definitely see the results from it. So I'm really excited to see what he's going to do with our younger kids coming up. I think Vestavia's got a very bright future with it.
That's awesome. So obviously, you have a very interesting backstory.
Yeah.
You have dealt with a lot in your life, with parents and guardians, dealing with alcohol abuse and drug abuse. How is and just abuse in general? What has that done for you to like overcome just about everything?
It was really tough because growing up, I didn't have a way to let my anger out. I was a very, very angry child because I didn't know what to do. Like, I was like, I need help, but I didn't know how to say I need help. And I think, going on the rest of that, because I still deal with anger from back then, just from the people that I felt like did me wrong. And, before every football game, during every wrestling match, I just get angry. Like, I'll get in the moment, I'll get angry. And I think it's just a great way for me to let my anger out. Because, like, during football and wrestling, like, there's no problems with anger. Like, I just let it all out. Whether it's in the practice room, like, as soon as I'm in that mode, like, no one's my friend. Like, poor Mitch, like, I felt so bad for him. Like, Mitch was a big part. Mitch was a big help. I'm gonna shout out Mitch real quick, get a little off topic, but Mitch was a huge help. So
that's awesome.
But yeah, growing up, it was hard. Really hard.
Well, I'm very thankful that you were able to share your story with me, and that you were able to overcome a lot of the obstacles that were put in your way. I appreciate you going over and telling us your life story. It's an inspiring one, to say the least. So, before we go, is there anything you'd like to say to my viewers?
God bless. I don't know. Yeah, I had something I want to say. Growing up, I was really sad. Like, from the time I was like 9 to the time I was 13, I was very, very sad because I would see other kids and see how good they were doing, and I would envy them. I'd be like, I want what they have. They seem so happy. Why? Like, what's wrong with me? So my thing would be is to make sure you're nice to everybody, because you don't know what someone goes through when they leave that school at 3 o'clock. And sometimes you can save someone's life by just saying, hey, how are you? So.
Powerful words. Really appreciate that. Well, I want to thank Dawson so much for being a part of this interview. Always love doing this with everybody else. So once again, thank you so much. Thank you so much to Dawson for that awesome interview. And thank you to all you guys for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And stay cool. I've been wrestling.